This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Welcome to the Covert Nerd Podcast. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Please take a moment and pause this podcast right now and share it with somebody who you would think would enjoy the same topic, whether it's a family member, friend, coworker. I would really appreciate it. Please go to covertnerd.net for all the previous episodes and the different ways that you can get in touch with me. And without further ado, let's dive right in and nerd it up. We're back with Al and Ben from Omug Comics to do another 90s darker and edgier. We need to get like a theme song or something, like an audio clip or something. We need Christian Bale to do a cameo of him, the Batman voice, gargling rocks, saying darker and edgier or marbles or whatever he's gargling. So we're going to talk 90s comic villains, our favorite comic villains, not necessarily that were created in the 90s, but at least had a major story arc or a lot of attention in the 90s. But we always try to do at the beginning a guess the artist or who's the artist. That way Al can impress us with his artist knowledge, right, Al? Yes, of course. And so we'll start with I'll give Al a cover or some pages from a comic, and Al will try to guess what 90s artist it is. And some of the artists didn't, again, just like what we're talking about today, didn't necessarily start in the 90s, but they had a lot of work done in the 90s. So are you ready, Al?
Sure.
All right. So I'll give you the first image here. You can tell me who you think the artist is.
See, that was tricky because you can't see a face. But,
yeah. And so I got another cover here. So if you want to, I can go between the two of them.
My first instinct is to say, oh goodness, that's Bart Sears.
Yes, good job. What was it that gave it away on this one?
With Bart Sears, it's always the musculature. And the faces too. He does the same face, especially around the mouth. But yeah, the way he does his musculature and builds his figures.
Okay, so that first one, the Silver Surfer, didn't have enough mouth. Is that the?
Yeah, you couldn't see enough of his face.
Okay, that's the key. More mouth instead of more pouches, more mouth.
That's right.
Okay, all right, good job. Yep, Bart Sears. So, all right, next one.
I want to say Ron Lim.
Ron Lim. Yep. Good job. Yep.
I'm pretty sure I had that issue because he was the Silver Surfer artist for a long time.
Yeah, I knew you were a Silver Surfer fan, so I was like, well, this one might make it easier.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look at the complication though on that Galactus Silver Surfer. No, I mean just energy everywhere and just wow, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of motion and energy and yeah.
Do you think Lenny Vernon needs more motion and energy?
Yes, it certainly does make it a lot more dynamic and exciting.
Yes.
There doesn't need to be more semis, but you can, there's other things you can do.
Exactly. All right. So maybe Lenny Vernon needs a villain with more big headgear, like Galactus.
Yeah. There we go.
More like Headgear Man or something.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Next one, last but not least.
Oh, that's Art Adams.
Here I thought I was going to stump you.
No, you're not going to stump anybody with Art Adams, man. He's the master.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the giveaway for him?
You got the faces. His mouths are always the same, but otherwise it's just. Again, the way he builds his figures and the musculature, and just he's got a certain cartoonish dynamic to his work that is just absolutely brilliant.
Okay,
and just and he's also one of those artists that like everybody whoever wants to draw comics tries to mimic and copy him as much as possible at some point.
Okay, okay, copied but never was the same, imitated but never. How's it go?
Never duplicated.
Never duplicated. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So Art Adams, imitated but never duplicated. All right. Yep. Well, good job. I thought, I'm going to get out with one of these, but I'm not even close. So
it was a good effort.
Good effort. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, we're talking 90s villains. So we're going to be going through few of them here, and I think I'm going to start with a popular one that came out in the early 90s, which was Omega Red, X-Men number 4, and he was...
I have that book.
Yeah. Oh, do you still have it?
Maybe.
Maybe in a box someplace?
Yeah, it might be hiding somewhere.
I hear it's a good investment.
We'll find out.
Especially if you bought it for not because Wolverine is in the book, but because Gambit is, like I did. So
yeah. Well, that's true. So he came around, X-Men number 4, created by Jim Lee and John Byrne. I kind of forgot John Byrne had his hand in this one.
Huh.
But he was co-creator with Jim Lee in X-Men number 4, January of 1992. Now this one, unlike some we'll see later and we've seen in the past, you know how, like when we did an episode where I think Al, you talked about Bishop, where they just tease at the very last page, like his arm or, just one frame at the very end. Yeah. But with this one, they start right out. He appears at the very beginning of the book and is featured pretty prominently. So it's a little different than a lot of the first appearances. But Omega Red, of course, from Russia. In IGN, he's ranked 95th greatest comic book villain of all time. So 95th out of 100,
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, everybody can't be number one, I guess, with that.
Well, when you figure exactly how many comic book villains there are, and he cracked the top 100.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah, there's that.
There's about 1,000 of them or more, probably.
Right.
Especially if you're going back to the 20s and 30s, you're really starting to get into them. But so he's a big antagonist for Wolverine because he has a history with Wolverine, Black Knight, and Sabretooth. He has these carbandium, I don't know if I'm saying it right, carbandium tentacles. They are I didn't know this, they are an alloy similar to adamantium, but they're more malleable. So obviously it gives him the flexibility and he can shoot energy through them. He's a Soviet agent. And then he has what's called a carbanium synthesizer, which without it, he has to drain life energy from other people in order to survive. So he's kind of like Galacticus in that regard. He has to have that energy from something else to survive. So that's kind of where he got his origin back in the 40s. He's had some run-ins with S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course, he's had run-in with X-Men, with Wolverine. But his first introduction, this one was really cool. I thought it was a very iconic. It seems like they were really pulling out all the stops here for this new X-Men series. So they really wanted to introduce some new characters and some new blood into a lot of this because they just come off of a Magneto run. 3 issues with Magneto, and they really kind of pivoted with this one. Your thoughts, guys, on Omega Red?
I always liked him when he first came out. I thought it was something different and fun because, again, more Magneto got old after a while.
Yeah.
I always thought personally they never really used Magneto right anyway. But yeah, it was nice. It was nice to see something different and something fairly original. Even though, of course, he had to go after Wolverine because. Right. But
and this is the one where they're playing basketball at Xavier's mansion. And it was kind of a different thing where they're using their powers, or they're not supposed to use their powers. And Gambit and Wolverine get into it playing basketball. And Gambit charges up the basketball and throws it at Wolverine and blows Wolverine through a wall. So that
as you do.
Yeah, as you would. And so that was kind of different. It's something you don't see a team playing basketball. Which has got to be difficult to illustrate and make it look like you're actually playing basketball, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Yeah, I always liked Omega Red just for the look. Like, I always liked his look. I never really got into him. In fact, up until just recently, I didn't even know what his powers were. But I just liked the way he looked. I liked the tentacle things. And even though, he went after Wolverine like everybody, but it was nice to see that, like Al said, it wasn't Magneto and it wasn't Sabretooth. So, somebody new. It was kind of fun. And then, like you said, in this book, this is like one of the first times you see like a day in the life type of scene of the team.
Exactly. Yeah. The day in the life. That's actually a good way to put it. It's kind of the day in the life of the X-Men. What are they doing besides saving the world? Well, they're playing basketball. So
Right. Everybody needs some off time.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. You guys probably watched the X-Men animated series. So here is their interpretation of Omega Red, how he looks. So we'll watch a brief clip.
Wolverine has brought allies.
It's gonna lag a little bit.
One mutant or 100, they shall all bow before the great Soviet Empire.
Yeah, not bad. I thought that was a pretty good one. And I might be biased because I'm nostalgic, but
I like that he took out Gambit in that clip.
You know, all he'd have to do is grab onto the tentacle and he could charge it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Ooh, yeah. Good point. Good point. I thought Al would be like, I'm surprised he took out Jubilee.
No, I never liked Jubilee.
Yeah, I know. And then there's this Hulk versus Wolverine animated movie they came out with back in, I think, 2014. They only have a brief encounter with Omega Red, but it's a fun one because it's Omega Red versus Hulk. And we all kind of know who's going to win that fight, probably. I thought it was pretty good. And then last one I found was Omega Red and Wolverine on X-Men Evolution. I think came out in the 90s or later 90s or maybe it's early 2000s. They had a new X-Men series that came out. I never watched it, but they had Wolverine and Omega Red talking in here. It was kind of weird. I think it was gauged for a younger audience. It seemed that way. But maybe it's just because I'm old now. everything seems young.
I'm kind of surprised that they stuck with the ponytail.
Yeah.
For all this time. Like they've never all the other, they've done some costume redesigns that look good, but they still got the goofy hair.
Yeah.
Right. It's his signature look.
Well, that's true.
There's other things about him that are safe.
How else are you going to know it's Omega Red if he doesn't have a ponytail?
You're right. The pasty white skin, the tentacles coming from his.
Yeah, the white skin.
Oh, that's right. He's from Deadpool.
He was in Deadpool. I didn't realize this. So it's got the little symbol.
I think
was it just like a picture in the background or what?
He was in the cafeteria scene. He was like sitting at one of the tables.
Yeah, at the prison.
I was gonna say I don't remember him at all.
Yeah, I didn't either until I found this, and yeah, he's in the prison scene, I guess. And I think there's some others characters back there too. He was, I guess, there. So there's Omega Red live action version of Omega Red. I think they included him in the Age of Apocalypse storyline later, and he's kind of popped up here and there, but his primary run was in X-Men number 4 and 5 was kind of, and then on the cartoon. This is a good cover. X-Men number 5.
Yeah.
Great cover.
Yeah, I like that.
That one's iconic, I think, in more than maybe 4 in my opinion. But this is where they have the fight between Wolverine and Omega Red. Good series or good character. Something totally different. But kind of pulling off of that end of the Cold War thing that they had going. Yeah. So here's
right. Of course, the bad guys still got to be Russian.
Of course. Now here's what the value. This is what Ben Crane's investment opportunities. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
All right. So X-Men number 4.
So what in the 90s? So face value of a couple bucks?
$50 now, Ben. Bought it for $1.25 back in 1990. It's worth $50 now.
Wow. See? Look at that.
If you have the alternate cover, there's like a B cover. Oh, that was a reprint. Never mind. No, yeah, $50. So $50. Wow. There you go.
There you go. See?
$1.25 in 1990 to $50.
Yeah, it only took 30 years.
It took 33 years, Ben. That's all it takes. 33 years.
Again,
and it can be
I can
yours.
only say it so many times. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah,
that's right.
And only 368 months. It can be yours.
That's right.
It can be worth $50. Oh man. So, all right. Well, that's all I got on Omega Red. Any final oh, here's his let me pull this up. He's got his stats on his energy or his power stats, from the cards.
Oh, yeah.
So durability of 5, energy 4, fighting skill 6, intelligent 4, speed 3, and strength 5. 6'11", 425 pounds. That's a beefy guy.
It's a big dude.
Yeah. That didn't really portray that. It wasn't really portrayed like that in the comics because he was always around the same height as Wolverine, who's supposed to be 5'3".
Yeah, exactly. Wolverine's like 5'3", and Omega Red's like 2 inches taller. Of course, they have Wolverine fighting Hulk too, so I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I feel like when they make the height and weight for characters, like they really just nobody has a tape measure handy, so they're just like, I don't know, make them like 6'8". Like nobody understands like how tall 6'8" is or 6'11", or it's like there's
the
like
proportions.
6'8", that's average, right?
Yeah, the proportions. Yeah, I agree. When we did our card episodes a while back, I was reading about that. Well, I think maybe Al brought it up that the stats were all just the guys in suits at Marvel just were like, let's give them a 3. There was no thought put into it.
Where was the 0 to start, the benchmark to launch from?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get the average human and then build up from there. But
I think Ben's right. They're just with the stats too. They're like, let's make him 6'11". Yeah, that's a big guy. Yeah, that'd be good enough.
Yeah. We want him to be big and strong. So 6'11", 400 pounds. It's like, you don't understand how big that is.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Huge. So,
like even Andre the Giant would be like, dude, that guy's big.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's all I got on Omega Red. So who wants to go next?
I mean, you teased me with the random already.
As I say, you brought up the random violence cover already, so you might as well go with Al.
Go with random. All right, Al. Let's go with random from X Factor.
Yeah, so random, he was a blob of photoplasm that was brought to life in Mr. Sinister's labs, and he's a bounty hunter who can change his body, and he changes his arm into guns. Now, as far
would
as
you say he could become random things?
Yes. One thing that, if they did explain it, I don't remember. I don't think I cared. 13, 14-year-old Al was enamored with the art of Joe Quesada here. And just the idea of this guy, he stuck with me. I know that he looked cool, and he was a lot of fun, and he was a bounty hunter, and he was showing up to kill members of X Factor, and it was something fun, and it was completely different than what you're getting in the other X-Men books, where it was just, more Magneto and Apocalypse, and this was just a completely different type of villain. It was just cartoony and outlandish.
He's got a little bit of humor like Deadpool or...
Yeah, almost like Lobo.
Lobo, there we go.
Yeah. You could probably say he was a little derivative because he was a bounty hunter who showed up with big guns. He was white. He smoked cigars. Yeah.
Did he ride a motorcycle?
He probably did.
He probably did.
So my favorite thing is you began your segment with random is a blob of protoplasm that gets brought to life.
Yeah.
But then you get hung up with, how does he load the gun? Where does the expended ammo go? What happens?
Listen, I'm not getting hung up. I'm saying don't get hung up on that. Let's just not
say, he's the phrase blob of protoplasm brought to life. You don't have to think about anything else after that other than how cool it looks.
I mean, look at how the cool the guy looks.
Right,
I mean, look, we're checking 80 or 90s boxes here, right? You've got the excessive costume accoutrements with the big knee pads. You got the bandana that gives you the flowing stuff in the back.
Right.
You got the jacket that's got some pouches on it. You got big guns, giant muscles. He's checking every single box of cool 90s look.
100%.
Barbed wire on his arm here by his gun.
Yeah, and not some, janky barbed wire tattoo like a frat boy. That's real barbed wire.
We're not messing around. He's got his ear pierced too, Al. That was pretty edgy.
Right. Because it's the 90s, man.
Because he's a bounty hunter. That's what bounty hunters do.
That's right.
I like his line here at the beginning. One guy's asking him, "You follow me, random, like a trail of manure."
That's right.
Oh man, Writer was Peter David, and then Joe Quesada, of course, the penciler.
Yep.
And I think he was created by Dark Beast. So this is after the Age of Apocalypse run, I assume. I'm not sure.
No, this is before.
Oh,
I think before Age of Apocalypse.
okay. Yeah, you're right. Well, it created him from a mass of protoplasm, making random the result of an experiment the Dark Beast had begun during the Age of Apocalypse as Sinister's lead scientist.
All right. Well, then, yeah, maybe right after.
Maybe it was, or maybe they retconned something, or I'm reading this from xmenfandom.com. So I believe everything you read on the internet.
Everything.
Yes.
It's all gospel.
So did he always turn his arms into guns, or did he ever did he do other weapons, or was it always guns?
It was always gun.
Like he never did like a sword or an axe or anything.
Not that I remember. It was always this giant cannon, and it's a. I mean, I already said that he was derivative of Lobo, but then if you guys remember, there was also a character called Bushwhacker that appeared in some Punisher books where the guy had a gun for an arm. So
okay,
there you go.
Yeah, Random's not the first. I think he's the best version of it. And according to Wikipedia, he popped up he was in a few episodes of issues of X Factor, and then he kept popping up after that here and there because if they needed a bounty hunter, they could throw him in there.
There as well.
Yeah, so he's malleable as a character, pun intended. So yeah, he is very much cliche 90s.
Oh yeah, you can tell. Oh, he's even got a tattoo of a heart with a sword through it on his left arm. Yeah, right above his real barbed wire.
Right.
Oh, and a snake tattoo on the other arm, I guess.
Yeah.
Man, they just threw everything at him.
Yeah, they checked all the boxes.
So he's your cliche bad guy with all the tattoos and the barbed wire.
Yeah. And the giant gun and the bandana and the one-liners and the quips and
Right.
Yeah, if you're coming up with a villain in the 90s, they just okay, here you go. Here's your template.
Yep. Here's the checklist. Just go down this list.
Yeah, just make sure each category has select 2 of these, add 1 of these.
It's like the Mad Libs of villains in the 90s.
That's right. Yeah. Select headgear, bandana, baseball cap.
Yeah. You have a choice. Yeah, bandana, revert baseball cap on backwards. I don't know. That add something else on there. Some sort of headgear. Upside down golfer's hat or something.
Yeah.
Some sort of tattoo. Needs to smoke cigarettes or a cigar, maybe a pipe, but probably not. His superpowers, I think he was just mainly he could turn into different stuff. Basically, I think he could shapeshift essentially, right?
I mean, it would suggest that when you read the internet, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't recall him ever doing it. He always looked like this and just had the giant gun for an arm. But I mean,
wasted potential.
I mean, with the name Random, they really should have made him appear more random occasionally.
Right. He should have been more like a Mystique, where he's turning into different people and.
Right. He should have been more derivative of Clayface.
Or Clayface, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of derivative of Clayface, just, a pile of goo that magically comes to life.
Right.
So this is the Wikipedia, body composed of a form of protoplasm which he can reconstruct at will to change his size and shape, alter to counteract any mutant force that is directed at him, and shoot as biomatter projectiles.
Oh, so that's where loading.
That's how he loads it. It's biomatter.
Biomatter.
Yeah, that's gross.
So he's shooting bits of himself.
No.
Essentially, yes.
At you.
We should talk about a different character now.
Otherwise, it could get off rails real fast. So, all right. So, X Factor let's see, his first appearance was X Factor 88. So, let's have a drum roll here. Let's see if we can see. Oh, do you have this one now?
I did. He's not going to be worth as much as Omega Red.
Probably not.
You don't think?
No.
$3.
Yeah, buddy.
$1.25 start, $3 value.
30 years later, It's gone up $1.75.
That's more than double what it's worth, what you paid for it.
You're not wrong, Ben. Thank you.
I thought it'd be worth more than that. I wonder if he does anything. Let's see what he did. Random appearance. Later appeared as a villain mutant in the House of X. Oh, okay. So the recent stuff on Krakoa. He's only briefly appeared in there. So yeah, I don't know. He just didn't take off, I guess.
Here's a fun fact. Joe Quesada, the artist who co-created him, up until like 2 years ago, was the editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics. He was the one running the show. Even when he's the boss, he still couldn't get Random in books or in movies to make him more valuable. So
and where's the random movie franchise?
Right? Yeah, I doubt he was a background character in Deadpool.
You couldn't even get a background shot in Deadpool.
Right.
So the main takeaway is young Al Random just checked all those boxes.
Yeah.
That was primarily it.
Yeah. And he's quintessential 90s villain.
He is. I mean, you look at anything Rob Liefeld did, and Random is a prototype for him, essentially.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Don't you have your Random collectible cards, Ben?
I mean, if they made one, I'm sure I have it.
Yeah. I wonder if he even made those Marvel Series 3 cards. I guarantee 3 or maybe 4. He's probably in one of those, I bet you.
I feel with some of the characters they did have, I feel like he's got to have made it somewhere.
Oh yeah, he's got to be out there someplace.
There's some that you look at those cards and you're like, who is this guy and why'd they make a card of him? So I mean,
yeah,
that's what you need to do, Al. Is you go on a Random. I'm going to collect all the Random posters, cards, anything that he's on, and just decorate your room with it. You're all in on. It should only cost you about $8.
Right.
Well, but see that will stir the market, and it'll start pushing the demand, because all of a sudden there'll be a run on Random merch, and so. Like I said, that'll boost the market and the demand, and then in another 30 some odd years, it'll be worth like $10.
Yeah,
one can dream.
Yeah. Well, what do you have for us, Ben? What was your villain of the 90s?
Go with Bane. Why not?
Bane. Okay.
We'll go over to DC. We'll get away from Marvel.
Switch gears. Go with Bane.
Yeah. And I picked him much like Al with Random. He's not necessarily my favorite villain. In fact, I was never really into DC Comics at all, and I'm still not. I just kind of, some of the other stuff that goes with him is what made him fun for me. And the fact that, he's up there with like the Doomsdays, where he brought down one of the, big unbeatable guys. He brought down Batman there for a little while. So that's always fun. When you got a character that did that. And he keeps popping up in all different variations throughout the Batman universe, some better than others, to be honest. But he managed to rank, you were talking about the IGN top 100 comic book villains. He's number 34.
Ooh. Beating Omega Red by like 60 points there. Al, where's Random on the IGN 100 villains?
I'd be surprised if he cracks 200.
Bane, like I said, I just kind of more like his backstory, his powers per se, even though it's brought on by a drug, it's not really powers. For some reason, I know it's a comic book, but it's always funny to me the fact that he was raised in a prison because his dad committed crimes and they couldn't catch his dad. So there's like, you'll just serve his time.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. Even in, made up far off foreign countries, that makes perfect sense. So, and then the fact that he's in this dark hole of a prison, but he still manages to get like PhDs and super high intellect and extreme physical fitness and learn every martial art and all these languages and all this stuff. So it's just, again, the 90s explosion of craziness that makes a character all condensed down into Bane.
He's in a comic book about a guy dressed as a bat beating people up, Ben.
Yeah. At least he's not protoplasm.
Not wrong, but
No, I know, but like you said, it's all of the zaniness, like I said, you're serving your father's time, but yet you manage to get all this cool stuff while you're in prison. You break out of prison or get out of prison somehow, and then you meet up. He hates Batman just because he has a fear of bats, not because Batman actually did anything. He just he has a fear of bats. He doesn't like bats. So when he hears about Batman, he just goes, "Well, I have to kill that guy."
I like that of everything else, like the being born in the prison, getting all of these skills and all of this knowledge, and they have a clever story for all of it. And then why does he not like Batman? He just doesn't like it. They just kind of phoned that part in of the creation. It's like,
right.
He's just a jerk.
He also he had a pretty good run. Obviously, in the '90s, he came out in '93 when he broke Batman's back. But then he kind of popped up around. He also killed Alfred in 2019 in one run.
Ooh.
And in true '90s fashion, he's got a daughter, but she's actually just a clone that was introduced in 2021.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing about that.
But yeah, he's been in the comic books, he's been in the cartoons, he's been in 2 of the different movies, Dark Knight Rises, and then also the better appearance, Batman and Robin.
The preferred version.
He even made a brief stint on the TV series called Gotham, which was Batman without Batman.
Oh yeah,
but he was on that as well.
Did he ever make it into the animated series?
He did.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good run in the animated series.
Several episodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how he got in good shape. He did 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, and 1,000 pull-ups every day.
Yep.
Yeah. And then he learned several languages, did pit fighting. That's how he learned how to fight.
Sure.
Yep. Excellent origin story, in my opinion.
Then he gets hooked on Venom, and it realized he didn't have to do all those thousands of push-ups. He could have just been pumping that stuff the whole time.
Yes.
Right.
Because they were testing Venom on the prisoners, and they were injecting it directly into their brain, and he was the only one to survive the surgery.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought it was a good origin story, in my opinion.
Yeah. He was also, there was one, I got to look it up here real quick. Where did I see it? He was in the, who they combined him with in the Amalgam runs was kind of funny to me.
Yeah, who did they combine him with?
He was combined with Nuke from Marvel Comics as Hydra's Bane Simpson.
Oh, okay.
Nuke, I can't remember his last name, Simpson. I can't remember his first name, but he's kind of like Bane. He gets kind of, superpowers from taking drugs.
Okay.
All right.
He was also merged with Punisher.
Oh, okay.
Called, I'm going to guess they meant it to be pronounced as the Banisher. But but if it's combined, if you have Bane and Punisher it would actually be like Banisher, but that sounds ridiculous.
Banisher.
Yeah, Banisher's a lot better.
Banisher's better, yeah.
He's the gun-toting, drugged-up anti-hero who broke Bruce Wayne's back. That's how he's described.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he's combined with Punisher. He also did a run with the Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Interesting. They did a lot of crossovers because they did a Batman Turtles crossover. They did a lot of crossovers.
He was mutated into a humanoid mutant African elephant by Shredder.
Oh.
Wow.
Why though?
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
He I kind of forgot he faked his death to get out of prison, of the Mexican prison that he was in, or whatever, South American prison. I forgot that.
Oh, yeah.
And he kills the guy running the prison, and with his teddy bear.
I thought you could just climb a rope to get out of that prison.
I guess
After
not.
having
it's an
a
island.
broken back.
It's an island. So.
What's fun about that teddy bear, fun fact, is he carries that teddy bear around with him all the time, even as a kid, because that's where he hides his prison shiv.
Ah, okay.
So he's just a little kid cuddling his teddy bear, but there's a hole cut out and he's got the knife in there. So if you come up with him and start messing with him, he just and then right back in the teddy bear.
Perfect.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, he was bloodthirsty.
You learn fast, man.
Yeah.
That's right.
You do. He's an excellent villain. They had it like a typical comic book fashion. They bring out the villain, but then they don't know what to do with him once he's defeated, and it's 2, 3, 4 years later. But I think they've seemed to be able to hang on to him and bring him out when they need him, and so I think he's going to go in the Batman pantheon of villains with the Joker and the Penguin. And
he falls in line with all of them too, of having the tragedy, having grown up in the prison and now he's hooked on the drugs, and it's the mark.
The one good move they did with him is making him, intelligent as opposed to just brute strength.
Right.
So they can use him in different aspects instead of just, he broke Batman's back and fought him and all that good stuff. But then they can bring him back later as like a tactician who's actually, which they showed a little bit more in The Dark Knight Rises. They showed him more as like the guy making moves in the background as opposed to just brute strength knocking down walls.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they talked
So there's
about
that.
he figured out within a few weeks of getting to Gotham who Batman was. So that they kind of point to the fact that his intellect is very high and he knows like 11 different languages. Yeah, he's just very intelligent. Not just, but he can also break you in half too. So that was the good part. But yeah, I love this character. It's tough to come up with new characters, especially even in the 90s. But this one, they seem to really knock it out of the park with this one.
Yeah.
This is the same time they're doing Doomsday, so DC really had some excellent villains that came out around this time. First appearance of Bane. Here's Ben Crane's money-making opportunity. $2.50 cover price, now worth $110.
Ooh.
So there you go.
I do not have this one because it was DC and screw DC.
Yeah.
Well, even if you have a second print, it's worth $50 still.
Dang.
That's not bad. I'm pretty sure I still have this one. I got it because the cover is just insane. That cover on Vengeance of Bane is just awesome. I mean, I don't remember. I don't know who did that one, but
that painted cover is most likely Simon Bisley.
Probably. I don't know if it says on the inside cover here. Let me look. ABRY G Fabry. I don't know. Let me look on the inside cover here. Graham Nolan is the penciler, but that doesn't always mean the cover artist was him.
Probably not the same guy.
Yeah. Anyway, excellent cover.
Yeah.
That painted Alex Ross type cover. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great cover.
Yeah. They did a Vengeance of Bane 2, but I never read that one. But the iconic back-breaking page, they even duplicated that in, I think there was a Superman animated show where Darkseid breaks Batman or Superman's back in kind of the same fashion. Then, of course, they brought Azrael in. So
I was going to say that Bane led to the awesome Azrael. So,
Bane's got like some back hair problems. Is that something you want to put on Lenny Vernon? Does he have back hair issues?
I mean, he could. Yeah. he's swarthy. Yeah.
Well, we also have the carnival manager from what is that, issue 5?
Yeah, that's right.
Was quite hairy.
Manager of the carnival.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that was actually not fun to draw.
Does maybe Venom? I think we talked about this. Venom cause back hair issues.
Yeah, which is probably good. It covers up all the back knee.
Yeah.
Well, the anabolic steroids causes back knee. Venom causes extreme body hair.
Yeah.
Right.
On to the next one here. I've got next pick. I've got from Image. We've got the Violator. So excellent newer character. Let's see. This was issue number 2. Came out in 92. Okay. Todd McFarlane, of course, the creator of Spawn, and then the clown. Well, when he's in the clown form.
Yeah. So he's.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, he's the guide of Spawn. They're both demons, and they're both working for the devil on Earth. And the clown / Violator is there to keep Spawn honest and keep him on track with the devil's plans.
I think there was an origin story on that, on how they came up with the name. I don't know if it's true, but I think it was Todd McFarlane or one of the guys that was working with him. They were at a gas station or someplace to get something, and they saw a sign that said, "Violators will be towed if you park there." And he's like, "Oh, Violator. That's actually a good idea." So that's where it came from, and seeing a "Violators will be towed" sign was where he came up with it. But he's kind of the evil henchman, or how the Spawns are kind of they're supposed to be running the show. He's kind of, like you said, he's the antagonist, but he's not supposed to be the antagonist. He's supposed to be the guide, right, for the Spawns in for the devil, for Malbolgia, I guess, is technically, even though it's not essentially Satan, but
it's Satan.
Oh, Violator in 2009 was ranked 97th on the greatest comic book villains of all time for IGN.
Cracked the top 100.
He did.
Y-
Dang
You'd
it.
think he would have got a little bit more of a boost with the John Leguizamo pub behind him.
Yeah, you would think. But
That was the best part of that movie.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Speaking of the movie, let's talk about the movie. Now I was obviously this is the 90s, so we didn't have all the MCU or anything now. So I was just like, this is totally awesome. They're doing a comic book, based movie. But so I liked it, but then you look back like, oh boy.
Right. Yeah, at the time I think I liked it because I really wanted to like it, because you want it to be successful, but
Right.
But then, it didn't take long. You watch it again, you're like, oh, that's not good.
Right. You liked the idea of it, but not actually it.
Right.
I mean, for the time, considering the budget, it wasn't too bad. But
And the abilities at the time.
And, it's the Image craze. I mean, we bought anything that was Image at the time. I mean, look at all the Youngblood and all the Liefeld stuff that we all bought.
Oh, yeah.
This is Todd McFarlane. And the art, I don't care what anybody says. Some people kind of crap on the older artists now. They're the Jim Lees and the Todd McFarlanes, but I'm like, they're still pretty amazing. I don't care what anybody says.
If you know what you're looking at, there's a lot of flaws and a lot of problems on that image there.
Go through some of it.
Well, just like the musculature and some of the shading and shadows, like it's just not. He makes up for a lot of stuff with just a ton of extra hashes and ticks here and there, and like the way the clothes are moving. It's not technically accurate, but it looks great. It's very dynamic. I mean, this is just a weird little dude talking to a cat in an alley, and still an exciting, visually appealing page. And that's the way with a lot of McFarlane stuff, and McFarlane will be the first one to tell you that he doesn't really know anatomy. He was never good at that stuff, and he didn't really care.
Okay.
As long as it looked cool and it had energy and dynamism, that's all he looked for. That's all he cared about. And again, he makes things look more detailed than they really are by adding in a bunch of extra flair. Like that trash can. There's just a lot of unnecessary lines there that aren't doing anything and aren't necessarily conveying.
I see what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
Makes it look cool. So
it does. Yeah. So the Violator is the oldest and most powerful of the 5 Hellborn demons, known as the Fleabeic brothers. He has some brothers which appear in the Violator comic book. I don't know if you guys read this at all.
I did not.
I didn't know it existed either. I probably saw it, but I didn't pick it up.
That's Bart Sears again.
Yeah. It's a 3-part series, and he fights his brothers in here. Oh, Alan Moore. Oh, Bart Sears.
Yeah.
And Alan Moore. I kind of forgot that I had Bart Sears. That's why I picked Bart Sears, because of this. I'm like, ooh, let's put him on there. So he fights his brothers in this one. I flipped through it. It's okay. And the art's really good. And they did the new coloring, the Ollie Optics.
Yeah.
So it looks really, because if you go back, I don't remember Spawn #2 used Ollie Optics or not yet, but it is Ollie Optics. Yeah. That was the early coloring back then. And just, it looks good, but it just seems different now. I don't know. It looks wrong or just not quite right. I'm not sure what it is.
With the early digital coloring in this era of Image, they were just learning it, and there were only a few people, like the folks at Ollie Optics and just a couple others, that were doing the digital coloring. And it's like any new toy. You can do gradients and things like that, and so they kind of overdid everything.
I mean, at the time, it looked amazing, and it still looks good. I'm not really knocking it. Just, I don't know. It looks different. I'm not sure how to put my finger on it.
It looks more glossy. It looks more alive than like the other coloring.
Yeah.
The other coloring looks flat is the best way to put it.
There we go.
Compared to this, I should say.
Yeah, because you go back to this, which is just 2 years earlier, and it just doesn't. It still looks good, but maybe it's because it's Todd McFarlane, so you got a different artist.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It still looks amazing. I'm not going to knock it, but Violator's excellent. You can't go wrong with that villain. He basically appears quite a bit in the first 10 to 14, 15 issues, and then you really don't see him much after that for a while. They had a Violator Bad Rock crossover So you had the Rob Liefeld and Todd McFarlane crossing over, which obviously they retconned later Spawn's origin because of the Liefeld and McFarlane split later on. So
well, and they also they had to retcon Spawn like fairly early just because of his power base.
Yes, yeah. Talk about that a little bit. The power base,
because he couldn't. The original he had the clock ticking in the first so many issues, and his power was going to run out, and so he had to be very careful with what he did and how he did it. But then they realized, like, we want to go more than 10 issues here, so
yeah. Yep, they had there's the clock, the 9995. And so once he got to 0, then he's done, and he has to go back to hell, and he has to stay in hell. It's kind of the deal. It was a good idea, but I wonder what Todd's long game was, or maybe he wasn't thinking long game. Maybe he thought this is just going to be a 20 or 30 issue run, and then I'm done, and it's still going.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at all the blood in this issue. Again, that's something, back in the early 90s with Marvel and DC, you just didn't see.
Yeah, or you could have blood, but it was going to be all black. It wasn't going to be red and vibrant and gushing everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Splashing on the sidewalks and whatnot.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I think there's one issue, I think it's issue number 4, where the Violator and Spawn are fighting, and they're just ripping off limbs right and left. And on the ground, you see limbs and blood everywhere. It's just all over. It's just crazy. Here's the clip from YouTube with the Violator live action. We'll see how it plays.
Clowning around. I'm not the vindicator or the victimizer or the vaporizer or the vibrator. I'm a violator.
So good up until this point.
Right.
Yeah, that wasn't at the time. Again, not bad. You took it for what it was in 1997, and
and the clown is such a good visual because he's such a creepy.
Yes. Oh man, was he was at the kids' birthday party?
Yeah.
I mean, and just the stuff he did in the comic book. Now here's the animated series version.
Oh, the HBO animated series.
Yeah,
that was so good.
I actually kind of like that one.
It was.
Yeah.
I came back for you.
Let's see.
Check his shorts. Bet they're brimming over. Wanna know?
Look.
What to do with you? Kidding, ready?
Just throws the cat off the roof.
Okay, here it is. It is time to get real. Got it? Hey, a deal's a deal in Malbolgia. My boss and yours delivered on his end. You got to see your wife. Dear, sweet, tasty wife.
I like the cartoon. The first series or first season was pretty good. I didn't watch it after the first season, but did you guys watch the second season, the HBO one?
I did. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. It was kind of hit and miss sometimes, but for the most part, it was solid.
They follow the comic book pretty close, in my opinion, with the first season. But Violator, let's see, he made an appearance in Spawn number 300, of course, the anniversary issue. And then, let's see, issue 294, 295, that he made Spawn's powers and all of the other Hell Spawns. Oh, they did some retconning there. Basically, he just shows up, looks like in the early, like I said, first 15 issues, don't see anything again for a long time. So, Spawn 167, yep, appears again. So, but still, early on, especially if you got into Spawn, he was kind of the guy. He was a good fun villain, clown version. I like the clown version better than the demon version. So, well, that's all I got on Spawn, unless you guys had anything else. Oh, yeah. So he uses in the Violator, this is Alan Moore. He has this head of some cartel leader on his arm that he keeps on his arm. It's weird.
Oh, yeah.
through his hand, it goes through his mouth, and he just kind of wears it throughout the all 3 issues. But that's got to be some Alan Moore stuff going on there. That guy is bizarre.
Yeah.
All right, Ben, last but not least.
Stryfe. I literally picked that name off of a list of comic book villains, and mainly, again, kind of like Bane, just because I liked some of the craziness of the character, because nothing says 90s more than time traveling clones. Yeah. And that's exactly what Stryfe is. He's a clone of Cable. And of course, if you're in Cable's timeline, chances are you're time traveling in some form or fashion.
Yep.
And again, in true 90s fashion, when you look at pictures of him, just, muscles upon muscles, pouches upon pouches, just again, going through that 90s Mad Lib checkbox and hitting them all. Excessive headgear, again, created by Liefeld, which explains a lot of what we just said. First appeared in New Mutants 86, but then he makes a couple other appearances in New Mutants throughout the 90s, but then also in some crossovers, the Executioner's Song and Messiah War. Again, just a crazy character that, like I said, a clone of a time traveler who then also has a kid who's then also a clone, but then the clone becomes the clone. There's just too much cloning and too much time travel. So at one point he thinks he's I think Cyclops and Jean Grey's kid, but it turns out that he's a clone and the real one was the kid, but the clone isn't. And you just can't keep it straight.
Let's try and get it straight here. So when was he cloned? Was Cable cloned before he traveled back in time?
Sure.
And then Stryfe also came back in time the exact time that Cable did?
Sure.
It's confusing. I was reading through it, and so he's created by Apocalypse, I think, in the future.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, in some of the reading I've done, and it did. Yes. Yeah, he's a clone of Cable, essentially.
Now,
from
Cable,
the future.
Cable is the son of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, correct?
Of Jean Grey.
Okay. And then he's also the character X-Man, right?
Well, so Stryfe is a clone of Cable, as a result, having Cable's powers.
There's too many webs, Al. You can't unweave them.
Apocalypse cloned him because of the virus, or what was it called?
Yes. You've got it. You know this. You've got it all.
Because it's in Executioner's Song. That's where I first saw him, was in Executioner's Song, the crossover event.
Right. So a lady appears from the future after Nathan Summers is infected with the techno-organic virus by the immortal mutant Apocalypse and tells Cyclops and Jean Grey that she can save their child, then arrives in the future and clones the baby, hoping to salvage something if he dies. The clone's growth is greatly accelerated, blah, blah, blah. He becomes Stryfe. So you have a clone that was a kid of somebody who then traveled back in time and then went back into the future and was cloned. And then they had a clone and time travel.
I remember, Al, you referred to X-Men as the comic book version of soap operas. So this definitely.
Oh, sweet mother.
Yeah, this definitely
with
hits
the evil twins and the evil clones and the time traveling and the nobody really dies. Yeah, it's Days of Our Lives, but with adamantium.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah,
yeah. He wears. Absurd. If you're listening to this later, he just wears a giant suit of adamantium. With, again, this is a '90s villain with the sharp points and
spikes and everything.
And then he has the cape. Why the cape? But you know what? Despite everything I said about what I liked about Random, I never did like Stryfe. I always thought he was. I just thought he looked dumb. I never liked him.
I saw him in Executioner's Song. I had a subscription to Uncanny, and they was like, "Who is this guy?" You're just like, "What is this? What am I looking at here?" It was kind of cool, but the longer I kept reading it, I'm like, I'm confused. Ben was trying to explain all this, and I remember reading. I'm confused. What are we talking about here?
Right.
Right. Yeah. It's and the same thing. Like when you start reading, start reading like Cable stuff, or like not the books themselves, but when you start reading like the origins and the timelines and everything. Like I said, it's like they traveled back in time, but then had a kid, but then the kid went to the future and cloned himself, and then traveled back in time again, and it's like, what the hell?
Right.
Where am I? What happened?
Right.
So yeah, so Strife is the clone of Cyclops and Jean Grey's other kid, but also a clone of Cable, who's a clone of a clone who travels. And like I said, when you keep adding clones and timelines, eventually something's gonna implode.
It's like I don't know where I'm at. Yeah, it was
you're
hard.
missing-
I remember reading it. I had a heck of a time trying to keep up with what am I doing here, and it was a complicated crossover, but still a fun villain. Do you know Ben? Reading up on, have they done anything with him since? I'm trying to look here.
I don't think so. It seems like he was in what was it, the New Mutants that we said there,
Yeah,
and then he was in those crossovers in Messiah War and Executioner's Song, and then one called Vendetta. But it doesn't seem like, from what I looked at,
yeah. Not seeing
did anything else.
They really didn't use him much. I don't remember seeing him much after this Executioner Song appearance. Yeah. That was kind of it. Oh, he's 6'8", 350 pounds.
Good Lord.
So it's a deal. They're like giant guys.
He appeared in the Ultimate Universe a little bit as well.
Villains are just linemen for the Packers.
Right. Apparently, there's a thing called the Deadpool Pulp timeline. In a General Stryfe is introduced. Stryfe is a younger, corrupt general who, alongside Cable and J. Edgar Hoover, hire Wade Wilson, who in this timeline is a former CIA agent turned mercenary, to get back a stolen nuclear briefcase. Stryfe is later killed by Deadpool.
Yeah, that's much less convoluted.
Yeah.
Not only did he travel back in time and is a clone, but then we created a whole alternate timeline to put him in.
Throw in J. Edgar? Come on.
Right?
J. Edgar Hoover. Let's see. He has superhuman speed, superhuman durability, agility, telekinetic. Yeah, psionics, since he's the DNA from Jean Grey, so he's going to have that telepathic and telekinetic abilities.
So where's the speed come from?
He just gets some of his own powers, but he also adopts a lot of powers because he's got Cable and Jean Grey and everybody. He possesses Cable's natural vast psionic abilities of telepathy and telekinesis. However, they're far more powerful than the ones Cable has generally displayed in the main continuity.
Maybe his brain synapses fire faster because he's the telekinetic, so he can move fast. That would be my guess how they would explain it.
I don't recall Cable ever using telekinesis, but all right.
So his weakness is overconfidence. That's his weakness, Al.
That's really listed that?
It is.
That's what it says? Oh, no.
On the X-Men fandom wiki, his weakness is overconfidence.
Pride comes before the fall, right?
Yeah.
So if overconfidence is a weakness in the Marvel universe, how is Wolverine even able to function?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I saw that. I'm like, oh man, that's funny. So your impression, Al, of Stryfe just wasn't like, eh.
I never liked him. I thought he was dumb.
I thought it was kind of it looked cool because it checked all the boxes, but yeah, long term, I don't know. I think
Like I said, I was just looking through a list of villains to do this episode, and I came across Stryfe, and I started reading it, just some bullet points. I'm like, well, let's dig deeper into this. And just as it got even more and more crazy, I'm like, there it is. He's on the list. Stryfe, right there.
Hey, if random can make a pick, so can Stryfe.
You're not wrong.
So
they're both equally absurd.
Let's see. New Mutants number 87.
Oh, 87? That's the first appearance of Cable?
Of Stryfe.
It's the first appearance of Stryfe.
I think it's the first appearance of Cable, too.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Oh, $125, and it was only $1 cover value.
How much for the second printing?
Let's look here.
It's not. I have
$8. $8.
All right, I have that one.
So is it valued this much because of Cable or because of Stryfe?
It's Cable.
Yeah, I know.
100% Cable.
I know.
I was going to say, before you brought up that it's the Cable first appearance as well, I was going to say it probably actually lost value. You bought it for $1.25 and now it's worth 50 cents.
Right? Yeah.
But you throw Cable in there and you got some money.
Yeah.
What was Deadpool's first appearance? Was that 100 or 99?
97, I believe.
That's there it is. $400 for the first appearance of Deadpool.
Dang.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway,
I guess Stryfe made a run in X-Force in 2018 and 19 too. I'm just looking up here.
Oh, he did. Okay, so they brought him back.
Yeah.
Okay.
He appears as the main villain in X-Force in 2018 and 19.
Isn't that when X-Force was like Colossus and Wolverine and Psylocke?
I think that's the Krakoa
Probably.
run. I bet you. That's kind of if that sounds like it to me, like the Krakoa that they've done lately, where they're all on the island and stuff like that. I don't know if you've read some of that. That's probably.
I've been made aware of it. I haven't really.
Yeah. I read the Krakoa thing, but then I don't know, I couldn't keep up with it. It was hard to stay back in. I dipped my toes in for a few months, and then I'm like, I'm kind of out of it. But
yeah,
no, Stryfe was a fun villain. I mean, again, at the '90s, he's just like random. He checks a bunch of boxes.
Yep.
Of the villain. Let's go back to the villain template. Let's see who created him. Let's see. That was
Stryfe was Liefeld and like.
Oh, Louise Simonson.
Simonson or something.
Simonson,
yeah. Now you can definitely tell it's Rob Liefeld. He created Cable, so that makes sense. So he just essentially created Cable. Let's create a clone of Cable and throw some adamantium armor on him and create a new villain.
Yep.
Right.
Almost zero effort. I could just draw the same guy.
That's just
awesome.
make him silver.
That is so awesome.
And then just draw all the timelines for the cloning.
We'll put him in a different timeline. And so the editor is looking at Liefeld stuff like, hey, Rob, this is the same character as Cable. No. We're going to put him in different timelines.
Right.
This is a clone. It's totally different. But he looks exactly like Cable. No.
Selling 1 million books, man. He can do what he wants.
That's probably true. Yeah. Never mind. Yeah. Let the guy do what he wants.
I just picture like the armor and the clone came as an afterthought. Like he pitched a new character. He's like, I'm thinking of like a telekinetic type of guy, and he's gonna travel back in the future and interact with the X-Men. They're like, oh yeah, Cable, and he's like, no, clone of Cable. Like he went into the meeting thinking he had something new, and he just pitched him Cable. And then as they pointed it out to him, he added in, he's a clone. And he's got this cool armor. I didn't mention the armor yet, right? Yeah, he's got this armor.
Right.
He's got the armor. No, but this is the same guy. Yeah, but look at the armor. Oh, man. Oh, the 90s. It was great.
Yep.
Well, that's all I got, guys. I can put a pin in this one unless you can think of something else. But if think of something, if you like our picks or hate them later, direct all hate mail to Al. He can handle it.
Yes.
No, just kidding. Anyway, all right. Well, hey, Ben and Al, I really appreciate it, and we'll put a link in the show notes for Omug because I think Al, you might have something on the horizon for Lenny Vernon, right?
We have a few things on the horizon, yeah. So we're gonna start posting stuff again soon and get back on the social medias and alerting people to our presence again. So be on the lookout.
Yeah, you got to stir that market and boost the, like I said, popularity and the demand again.
That's right.
And look for your Al Garrison fan club opportunities, right?
Right. Yep.
And then we'll see if you can combine it. We can have the Al Garrison fan club, but with the Ben Crane investment tips. Little tips at the bottom that we can send out to you, right? And what to invest in. And
well, if you join the Al Garrison fan club, you get the first 5 investment tips for free.
Ooh,
that's right.
Okay,
it's a joint offer.
That pays for itself right there.
It really does. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, thanks, Al. Thanks, Ben. And until next time, nerd it up.